So just to recap from last week, there are two main opinions in the Rishonim why we wait between meat and milk. The Rambam's reason is Basar Bechalav, the meat that gets stuck between your teeth, and Rashi and the Tur is because of the strong taste of the fatty meat that it stays. And we spoke about a bunch of nafkaminas, a bunch of differences, and I sent that to you as well. Now, the first shayla that we're going to look at today is the following. It's an interesting one because in Israel they have schnitzels and sausages. They have naknik, which is the word, and they also have dagnik, which is the same thing, but it's fish. And they're probably, they're probably so full of chemicals, it probably, glows in the dark, whatever. I don't know whether they make them in Chernobyl or whatever. But either way, they in terms of the taste, apparently, so you take one of these things out of the fridge, you eat it, the package isn't there, and you don't know, am I meaty or not? Do I have to wait 6 hours? That's the shayla. So esophagus, I can't think of any other way. So this is the shayla. So what do? Do you have to be machmir from the suffix or not? Source 12. Omnom. Says here the early Yaakov. It's on page 18, top of the page. Says the early Yaakov. Omnom. Shalachti she'elo zula hagoyin bal ha'avne yoshpei. One of the achreinim that is still alive. Well, no, he isn't. Sorry. He died a few years ago. Hey Shiv, and he writes back as follows: Shomati she'ela kazois ba'achilat ktzitzot. What's ktzitzot? I think ktzitzot are like meatballs, that sort of thing. Yeah. So he says, I've heard the same shayla about eating meatballs. Shahari loy nikar tomid im haktzitzot hem mibasar dag. You can't always tell whether these meatballs are meatballs or fish balls. V'lachein. So this is the shayla. You're not sure. Are you mechuyev to be machmer and wait 6 hours? It appears to me, he says, that you can be mekel. You don't need to be machmer. You do not need to wait 6 hours. What's the reason? Listen to the lamdas. V'tami mishum yesh kan svek sveika. Suffix faker, a doubt within a doubt, a double doubt. And this is the way it works. And this is actually an interesting shayla. They're just very quick background for maybe people that haven't learnt ksubas before, where the classic sugya of sfek faker exists. So normally we know that a suffix, when you have a doubt in something which is itself min haTorah, you have to be machmer, right? There's a massive machlokes rishonim whether that which you have to be machmir sofik de'oraisa l'chumra is that itself midoraisa or midrabanan. That the Rambam holds that sofik de'oraisa min haTorah is l'kula and only midrabanan l'chumra. Whereas the Rashba and many others are of the opinion that sofik de'oraisa is min haTorah l'chumra. And this is a massive, beautiful topic. One of the ideas that is connected to it is the idea of what is known as sfek, or as it should probably be correctly called, suffix faker, a doubt within a doubt. So, there is, I won't go into the classic case because it's a bit, it's a little bit indelicate, but if I have a doubt within a doubt, then even min haTorah it is mutter. So, and the question is, the shayla always is why? Hi, are you feeling better?
Yeah.
Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. And the question is, why is it mutter? So if I normally have a regular doubt, 50-50, what's known in the lingo as a suffix hashokol, okay? Then min haTorah you have to be machmer. But if within the side which says that it's a problem, there is another reason to doubt it as well, then it becomes mutter. Why? Says the Rashba, and this is only one approach, says the Rashba, it's mathematical. It's purely mathematical. Sofik de Oraisa, you have to be machmir, because if it's 50-50, the halacha is you have to be machmir. But the minute it becomes not 50-50, if I have a doubt within a doubt, then you can be makel for a simple, it's a numerical calculation. There are other opinions, but that's the opinion of the Rashba. That is exactly what we're talking about. I'm explaining Svek Sveka. That's exactly what I'm explaining. Right. So here we have, it's quite an unusual case. So here is the case. This guy's eaten some balls. He doesn't know whether meatballs or fish balls. Does he have to wait? 6 hours? Says the Ol Yaakov, you can be makel. Why? Because there's a Svek Sveka. Listen to this. This is really interesting. In fact, I should probably, in a minute I'll point it out to you. So, question number 1 is, maybe it was fish. 50-50, let's say. And even the intim tzalema sha'achal basar, and even if you want to say it was actually meat, shema ha'halacha kedas ha'rambam, she'ein isur rakim nichnas ha'basar bein ha'shinayim. Even if you want to say maybe that it was meat, maybe the halacha is actually like the Rambam, where the problem is only of gets stuck, and with meatballs it doesn't get stuck, it's only stringy meat. So normally we're machmir. Why? Because the Mechaber, if you remember, brings both opinions, Rashi and the Rambam. So we are machmir for both opinions. But when you already have it's loaded, it's already a suffix, you can add it to the count and be makel. Shema halacha kedas Rambam she'ein isarakim nichnas basar bein hashinayim u'ba'achilas ktzitzos lo nichnas basar bein hashinayim. And of course, with meatballs, that's not a problem. So 50-50, was it meat? Was it fish? Imtim salema, maybe it was meat, but maybe the halacha is like the Rambam, that it's only because of basar bein hashinayim, and therefore you can be makel with meatballs. So
the guy couldn't tell.
You couldn't. Apparently, there's no way of telling. Yeah.
Okay.
Apparently, the case was there's no way of telling. I don't think there's a Shulchan Aruch here. But just to finish off the conversation, in Shulchan Aruch at when one takes smicha, so there's different types of smicha, whatever. But there's a very basic smicha that would just involve, say, Basar Bechalav and Tarovus. So at the end of Hilchos Tarovus in Yerodei Siman Kuf Yud, Siman Kuf Yud is the siman that deals entirely with this concept of Svek Sveka, Sofik and Svek Sveka, and the Shach, the Ramah and the Shach has, I can't remember the number. I think it's 60 or 70 klolim of Svek Sveka, the rules of Svek Sveka. It's one of the most, it's pretty complicated. All the different types of Svek Sveka. The Shach has klole Svek Sveka, the Prima Godim and the Kivega Dynamic. That's how when he used it's because it's lomdus, it's classical lomdus. So for example, one of the questions is, does the Svek Sveka have to be reversible? Or is it okay if it only works in one direction? Just for example, and there's lots and lots more. But anyway, now that we're in that, and there was a joke that they used to say about a certain Dayan who will remain nameless. You wouldn't know who it was anyway. They used to say a joke in the Olam HaYeshivas. It's only a joke. It's Adar, I'm allowed to say it. It's not real. But they would say that really everything is mutter. This particular Dayan, had a reputation for being very, very lenient. So they would say it's follows, everything is mutter. Svek Sveka. Sofik, it's asa. Sofik, it's mutter. Imtim Salem, it's asa. Dayan so-and-so would definitely permit it. So that's a joke, okay? For the video, it's a joke. Weiter, let's go on. So that's the, now this is something which then becomes quite relevant for sick people. And when we talk about sick people, as we're going to see, this is really, really actually a very important halacha. You don't need to be makel on the waiting time between meat and milk. You don't need to be, dying, basically. And this is the next thing we're going to look at. And for this, we're going to the Shulchan Aruch. Okay? So, don't tell me I gave away all of... No. That would be rather stupid if I did that. I did, didn't I? Or somebody must have... Somebody open up. Ganov took my last... Oh, sorry. Did I not make enough? Okay, that's in a way, it's a good sign. Okay, so the Pischei Tshuva, we're looking for the Pischei Tshuva Sif Cotton Gimel. Okay, Kwetzer Chasam Sofer. Here it is. It is here. Pischei Tshuva Gimel. To find it. It's all part of the fun. Find the Pischei Tshuva Gimel. No, Sheishois. Pischei Tshuva Gimel. You have to. The name of the commentator is the Pischei Tshuva. Sheishois. Yeah, says the Pischei Tshuva. Ein Ber Yosef. Okay. Sheishois. Ein Ber Heitev. Shel HaMaharit. Ima Shoisem Zmanios. Okay, fine. One shine of Ein Kresi Uplesi. Uprima Godim. Ubechachmas Adam. Sheskim Ladas HaKnesset Gzeiladin. Mzmanis Ein Shom. V'chein Amidik. Finished. V'Ein B'Tshuvas Chasam Sofer. This is the bit we want. Simeline Gimel. Dechoyle hashoise mei cholav l'rfuasei. Somebody's not well, and the doctor says it's a good idea. It's healthy to drink milk. Afilu hu rak choyle ktsas. Even if he's only a little bit ill, you don't need to be in bed. He's a bit unwell. He's a choyle ktsas. Ein tzarich lehamtin achar achilas bosa yesem mishah, says the Chasam Sofer. You definitely don't need to wait more than an hour. V'achar shel kvar birchas hamozain yishte. So you can wait an hour and say Birchas Hamazon, and that's absolutely fine. That is the Pischei Tshuva. The Chochmas Adam. Now we go here to source 13. Says the Chochmas Adam. Umikol makom l'tzoyrech choyle ktsas nirali poshut. So it's not just the Chasam Sofer, it's also the Chochmas Adam. You wait afil achol basar behema la'achar sheyamtin sha'ah. So he adds, he says, you wait an hour, it's a bit more machmir than the Chasam Sofer. He says you should clean your teeth out. He's being chayesh for the Rambam. You'd have Basar ben Hashinayim, so he says you should brush your teeth as well. That is the, so for example, somebody has heartburn. And there's no, what they call Rennies, Tums, I don't know, whatever they're called. Yeah. So if somebody has heartburn, you don't have to be mamish in such pain you have to go to bed, but if there's nothing else available, you're not near a pharmacy or whatever, right? And the only thing is milk, you could have milk after an hour, right? It's chaylik tzas. Okay, so that would be an example. Let's have a look at...
Also look for hospitals?
Yeah. Well, I imagine so. Usually that's where you find sick people, I guess. Yeah. But you see, you can't say if somebody is in hospital for I don't know, just because you need a heart transplant doesn't mean that you need some milk now. I mean, it has to be connected to. There has to be a connection. It's not like you can't go running around to McDonald's just because you're in hospital. I know you're not suggesting that, but there has to be a connection. A chayla. So yeah.
Like a need for it.
There has to be a need to have. There's a need to eat or drink this particular thing, which is a Basar Bechalav problem. That obviously there has to be a connection. Let's go now to Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef, Yalkut Yosef, 14. Also, he says 1 hour. And remember, the Sfaradim, the Mechaber is very machmir. Yoledes. Kol Lamad Yom, all 30 days after birth. A pregnant woman who is suffering a bit, she's in a bit of pain, and she feels the need to have milk or cheese. Also, don't forget that with pregnant women, sometimes there can be this, like this craving. They crave crazy stuff. Yeah, part of the. Yes, if they are craving it, absolutely. If they are craving it, and some of the stuff's really quite bizarre. Okay, but that's life. And if she is nursing, and that's why she needs to drink milk, also, so the same thing. Okay, now we move on to cotton. What about chinuch? This is always a Shevet HaLevi, that's right, he quotes, he doesn't bring it here, but he brings a Shevet HaLevi that says sometimes there are pills, if somebody needs to take a pill, but the pill has a dairy component. then according to the Shevet HaLevi, you can have it even after you've had meat, because when they use it, there's no taste, they make it, he doesn't actually say because it's not derech achil, he says they make it not ro'oi, that component itself is not ro'oi l'achilas kelev, and therefore you could have it even straight after a meaty meal. Yeah, okay, so that depends on a bunch of other things. Okay, a cotton, right? Chinuch for a cotton. Now here, let me share the following with you. There's a Mogen Avram in Hilchas Kiddush, and this is also important to know. The Mogen Avram uses a very interesting lashon, if I remember correctly. I haven't seen it for many years, but I think his lashon is, he says, because the halacha is that you can't eat before Kiddush, right? So what about kids? Now I'm not talking about little kids, but as kids get a little bit older. So he says, Osur la'anois haktanim. It's like an interesting lashon. Osur la'anois haktanim. It's forbidden to make them suffer. The idea of kids, it's one thing to be mechanach them in mitzvah saseh, but when and it's perfectly okay to stop them from eating, going to McDonald's for supper. That's okay also. But making them wait, like for Kiddush or something, generally speaking, it's frowned upon. Okay? So the question is then, how do we, that's why also I personally am not a very big fan of kids who want to fast when they're young before bar mitzvah. No.
Tanim is also after bas mitzvah. Tanim is like...
No, you're a godel. Once you are bar bas mitzvah, you're a godel. You're not a cotton, you're a godel. Yeah, that's different. No, that's different.
No, okay. So
that's different. But what about children? So there's a few different levels. So let's see how he puts it. Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef here in 50. Cotton afilu higia legil chinuch. Even a cotton who has reached chinuch age, 7, 8. Sha'achol machal basari, who's had a fleshik meal. Efshel lahokal leilechel achakach machal echolov. Mibli lisheishois me'achilas habasa. Don't need to wait 6 hours. Umuta af losis lo yelachila biyadayim, and it is even mutter to give him and to feed him. Mipnei sheyesh tsar liktanim lahamtin sheishois. It's very difficult for them. It's not easy. That one of the things about being, good evening, hi. One of the things about being a cotton, it's been a while, I don't remember it, but there's an interesting thing. The perception of time. They have a different perception of reality, and they also have a different perception of time. And it's actually one of the won't go into not that I know a huge amount about it, but educational psychology, Piaget and others, how the kid's mind develops. One of the big things is the concept of time. To a child, a really young child, there are only 2 types of time. Now and not now. That's it. It's now and that's now and not now. A minute, a day, a month, an hour is of no meaning. It's either now or it's not now. And therefore I'm going to cry and make a big scene. And as they grow a little bit older, they can understand a bit more. And if you really want to take this to its full conclusion, if you think about this, that's what it means to be a Yid. Delayed gratification for Olam Haba. That's the whole process. Think about it. The whole process is not now. But I'll add something. It's not what I said is not 1,000% true. There's a beautiful Maisa I came across this week when I was researching something else, and I'm trying to remember who the Maisa was with. It was one of our Gedolim. I think it was Reb Aaron Kotler. That somebody was sitting with Reb Aaron Kotler and showed him where it says somewhere in a Makor somewhere, and I forget, that when you have a Yisachar Zvulun, somebody supports a Ben Torah to learn, who gives financially. So it says that in Olam Haba, apparently there's a source that says, in Olam Haba, the person who supported him will be given the opportunity to enjoy the Torah that he supported him for. So even though he might be a big Amoritz down here, but because he genuinely supported and promoted Torah, he will be given the zechus of actually understanding and enjoying the Torah in the yeshiva shel Ma'ala. Be amazing. So the Balabos turned around to Rabbi Kotler and said, so really now there's no difference between you and me? He says, you're right, so now... And Rabbi says, you're absolutely right. He says, the difference is, I have an Olam Hazeh. I have a Rabbi Kiva Eiger in Olam Hazeh. I have a Tosfos in Olam Hazeh. You're right. But I have an Olam Hazeh. It's genius. It's beautiful. Why do we get onto that? Yeah, delayed gratification. The idea of being an adult is delayed gratification. And kids are not very good at that. They're not very good at that. So even says, Yosef, even if a kid is, he could be 6, 7 or 8, but the idea of waiting 6 hours for the milk chocolate or whatever it is difficult for them, and therefore we shouldn't be machmir. Now, so how does it work? That's only for real food. But he says, don't be too makel, ein lahokel, little tinekes shigiu lechinuch mamtakim b'shokolad. Yeah, just to give them the Mars bar or whatever it is. No, that they can learn to. They don't need to get luxuries. Okay. Umikol mokaim nochen lechenches haktanim shona achas lifnei gil bar mitzvah. A year before bar mitzvah, then they should start keeping the 6 hours or whatever it is they're going to do. Okay. Okay. Fine. Okay. So that was a cotton. Well, he's writing obviously for Sfaradim, but if somebody, it's the same thing with L'chura would be according to him. If you're an Ashkenazi and you keep 6 hours, that would be the chinuch. Now we have here in the Sefer HaKashrus, Rabbi Forst, he writes 16, Tinoikos sheterem molu lahem shalosh shonim. Kids under 3, torim b'achilas chalavi, miyad lach achilas basari, b'mido piyam noki mishirei habasa. Little kid under the age of 3, just make sure their mouths are clean, and they can go straight away ahead and eat milk. Migil shalosh, no hagula hamtin shah achas. From the age of 3, 1 hour, he says. Migil chamesh, shalosh shois. He says from 5, 3 hours, and from 10, then if they're healthy, they should wait 6 hours. So he's more machmir. Okay, that's his opinion. Okay, and now we come to an interesting opinion, and regarding waiting, the digestive system. What happens when you sleep? Does it make a difference if you sleep? Do you have to wait less? Here we have a tshuva from Ramesh Steinbach. Soll sein gesund und stark. Okay, says Ramesh 17. Tshuvas van Hogus. B'sefer vayas Avram maybe b'shem hagoyin hakodesh ha'admoir Reb Avram Michechnov zatzal. Sheshir sheishois hainu leikul. So this Admir was of the opinion that 6 hours is for digestion. Ikul with an ayin is digestion. V'sheina goyrem ikul v'loitzar sheishois. Sleep causes digestion. Now, I'm not a very big, I'm not a biologist, and I didn't research this. It was my understanding that actually that when you sleep, your digestion slows down. And he's saying kind of the opposite. I don't know. He says, I saw that somebody passed like him. Says Rav Moshe Sternbuch, so the following fascinating thing happened with the Chasam Sofer. There was a story with the Chasam Sofer. The Chasam Sofer originally was of the opinion, like this Admir, whoever he is, that if you sleep, you don't need to wait 6 hours. So the Chasam Sofer once slept. Yeah. And he got up, and although it wasn't 6 hours, he started preparing himself a coffee. And it fell. Chasam Sofer took that as a sign from the heavens. I don't know. Lachen me'oz posak delay plug, and therefore he, from that moment on, the Chasam Sofer said, no, sleeping makes no difference. Umi hu asheyohin lifsek neged amudai ro kamoisai avol sarich bir le bashamayim he lifsek kairos b'simonim in ashamayim. Of course, we don't le bashamayim. We don't take signs from the heavens, generally speaking, and that's another whole. Yeah. I will resist the temptation to get into
So
that.
if you
Yeah.
if you prepared your shot with a whiskey and it's fall down, so you need dafka another one.
No, you,
Because
have to do a very serious tshuva for wasting
So the
whiskey.
dafka, because when
That's
done
a very, you have to go tshuva.
of shamayim.
Yeah. שבעלמא אי אפשר לפסוק למעשה, רק ההלכה כבש, אבל גאוני ישראל בעלי רוח הקודש. So he says the following, and this is, by the way, this is a there is a Gemara which says, Ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu mevi l'takol afilu lebehemton shel tzadikim, a Gemara in Chulin. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will not bring a davka, and there's a Tosfos about this. I once gave shir about this in Parashah Shir, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, specifically when it comes to food, they tzaddikim are given a protection of some sort. Why dafka food? The answer is because food is that which we ingest. We take it in, and there is a teva ruchni. The Balatanya explains that the word we say ma'acholos asuros. It's a very interesting word. So we're so used to it, we don't stop to think. The word also does not mean forbidden. Matir asurim. Asurim, osur means somebody who is bound up. And matir means to release. And when we get up in the morning, we were lying there, and now we are matir asurim. Hashem releases those who are bound up. So we say, so why has it found its way that we say ma'acholos asuros? Explains the Balatanya that inside all food there is, you can call them nitzotza sakdusha, call it whatever you like, right? The pasuk says kilel alechem levada yichye ha'adam ki al kol mitzvah pi Hashem yichye ha'adam, which means that, and here we get into a fascinating subtopic, which is that in the same way that when you eat something, the body breaks it down, the nutrients, the bits and the vitamins and everything, and it goes to the right place. It is this really, the food, physical food, contains within it spiritual potential. And that is released into the body. And there are some foods which can be released. Therefore it is mutter. They matter, they can be released. And there are other foods, so for example, Schweinfleisch, the Rebbeinu Shalom created a food whose spiritual potential is so tied up, it's so osur, it is bound up, that even if a yid or a tzaddik eats it, you can't release it. So there's no point eating it. It remains osur, macholos asuros, that's where it comes from. La'osid lovoi, we will eat chazir, as Chazal say, and that's another whole story, because then things will change. But that is the concept. So, davka, when we talk about food, because food is the one, if chas v'shalom a person does an aveira, so they have created an impact and it's bad, but it's a bit like lahavdil, if somebody ingests poison. Yeah? Somebody who ingests poison, it's a major problem. And actually it doesn't even matter why they took the poison, even if they did it by mistake. It doesn't matter. It makes absolutely no difference. You know, and while I'm on the subject, there is there's an incredible Maisa. I said it with Rav Shach. A family came to Rav Shach. They had been to one of these shiurim, seminars, the Shabbaton. They were secular Israeli family. They went to one of these seminars put on by Arachim or whatever, and they got a chizuk. And they were mischazik, and they went to their Rav afterwards and said, look, we're not going to become frum. We're not frummers. Hey, we're not ready for that yet. But we'll take on one thing. We will accept one thing. One thing. So he went to Rav Shach and says, what should that one thing be? He thought Rav Shach would say Shabbos, Taras HaMishpach. Rav Shach said, no, Kashrus. Now that was smart. It's so, first of all, he doesn't need me to say smart. Smart because it's easier depends. In Israel to eat kosher, right? But he was saying something very deep. What Rav Shach was saying was the Jewish neshama is nourished by kedusha, which comes from kosher food. If you have food which is not kosher, you've clogged up the spiritual arteries. You're dead. You're insensitive. You're not sensitive to ruchnius. So that it was a form of a detox. Start eating only kosher. And the story went, they started eating kosher, and they then just started Shabbos, and the rest all came. Because they were now, and that's the Nakuda. So Davka, when we're coming to Macholos Asuros, one has to be even really, really, really strict, because then that becomes you. You eat it, and it becomes you, quite literally. So, therefore, Hashem is very careful, and He protects tzaddikim. They have a special protection. Those who are very careful have a special protection, davka, about food.
Like
and this is
Khatan
what...
Sofer?
Sorry?
Like Khatan Sofer?
Correct, yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, there are many other stories, even from Yidden not that long ago, who could smell if something was kosher or not. Now, that doesn't mean we paskin like that, of course not. But it does mean that when something happens to somebody who is a tzaddik in the area of food and things, then that is, we're not paskining on that basis. But it has significance. And finally, he says, "Umusupal Rabbeinu Hagroch," says Ramosha. There's a story with the Vilna Gaon. The Vilna Gaon, even though this doesn't have to do with food, but the Vilna Gaon, this is a big shaila. Do you do birchas koyanim, duchening in chutz la'aretz or not? There are some, according to some Sephardi poskim, you would. So the Vilna Gaon wanted to actually reintroduce it. And for some reason, the Vilna Gaon that night got arrested, and he was taken to spend the night in prison. And he took that as a sign not to change the minhag. Salanta posed the following question. He said, the Torah is not in heaven. We don't go along with signs only on the basis of halacha. They know whether to take this as a sign or not, and they look again in the halacha and they decide the halacha. Fine, finished. Now, vitamins. Let's move on. Rav Moshe, a very interesting Rav Moshe. Do you need to wait 6 hours from after eating a vitamin which was made out of liver? Okay, says Rav Moshe 18. Uposhut shegam b'zeh mutar sheleka b'zeh hatamim shehuzkru b'taz ubeshach va'af mitam lo plug. Oh, now here is where we need to get to the low plug. There's a prima godim, and for this we need to see the Pischei Tshuva Sivkoten Aleph. So we're going right back to the beginning, and it's not on the first page because the Pischei Tshuva is to be found on the second page. Pischei Tshuva Sivkoten Aleph. It's on the second page. Okay? Says the Pischei Tshuva. Ayin Shach. So this is where the Shach and the Taz discuss the Pischei Tshuva Aleph. Yeah. This is second page, page number 2.
Yeah, the short.
Second page, Pischei Tshuva Aleph. Here.
Aleph here. Short. Ayin Shach.
If you can't find it, I'll find it for you, no?
It's okay.
Right, weiter. Okay, so, says the Pischei Tshuva, if you chew fat and spit it out. Why you would chew fat? Not meat. You chew fat and you spit it out. So both according to Rashi and the Rambam, they would agree you don't need to wait 6 hours. You don't have it's not meat, and also it's only the fat. It's not meat with the strong taste of meat. It's just the fat of the meat. So it should be mutter. However, the Pischei Tshuva says, we're going to see, he introduces a concept of loy plug. Says the Pischei Tshuva, Ein Shach, v'im lo yes letina ktav shel sheyesh bo shuman. What would be if you chew something with fat, and then you give it, spit it out. L'chura l'chol ha'perushim ein tzarich lahamtin. Surely you would not need to wait. D'moishach leka kivin d'lo yochal. The taste is not going to linger because you didn't eat it. Ubein shinayim leka, and there's nothing to be stuck between the teeth. Excuse me. Elo demikol mokim kosav ha'pri megodim. Says the Pri Megodim, Yesh lahachmir lahamtin sheishois mishum loy plug v'loy lifreitz geder. Says the Pri Megodim, it is true you could find, in this case, theoretically you would be able to be makel, but the Pri Megodim introduces the idea here of loy plug. What is loy plug? Loy plug is a general concept. When Chazal write legislation, and even though it is true, occasionally you might be able to find a case which doesn't quite fit all of the criteria and the reasons, but we keep it consistent and uniform, and even though the reason might not apply, sometimes Chazal will come along and say, loy plug, which means we don't make differences. Once we have the law, that is the law. We don't always apply it, and there are rules when we say loy plug and when we don't say loy plug. But the Pischei Tshuva brings the Pri Megodim, says we do. Says Reb Moshe. Now we come to Reb Moshe. Okay, so this fellow swallowed a tablet which has meat in it. Says Reb Moshe, uposhut, 18, source 18. Uposhut, shagam bezeh muta. In this case, it's also muta. Sheleka bezeh hatamim shehuzkaru betazu b'shach. Va'af mitam loy plug. Even the loy plug, shela ha'oisrin, hu mishum loy plug. Nami bevitamin she'eno davar hanechal. Loy plug is only with food, but not with something which isn't a food substance. It's just a tablet. Eino davar hanechal elo hanivla. That's all you do. You swallow it. Ein shayach gam loy plug bezeh, and therefore Rav Moshe holds if you have a properly meaty vitamin made of liver or something, don't know, cod liver oil, no, whatever. So no, that's not meat. Something's properly meaty. You don't need to wait. That's Rav Moshe. Okay. What about if you put a bit of soup in your mouth and spat it out? So you didn't chew anything, even if it's meat soup. Right? Let's have a look. Says the Dao Kitshuvah, 19. Miyudavka loyes. The loy plug of the Pri Megodim is when you chewed something. What if you don't even chew something? It can happen. I don't know. Wife wants you to taste the chicken soup on Friday afternoon. Does it need anything?
Salt.
Yeah. So you swill it around your mouth and you spit it out. What would we say then? Says the Dao Kitshuvah. Avalim loy loas klal rak to'am bilashoynoi upolat miyad ein tzarich lahamtin lekula alma. You don't need to wait. Ve'in bezeh geder siag klal. So you're not chewing it. You just tasted it. Does it need salt? And you spit it out. Finished. And then that's okay. There's no low plug there.
Actually,
Sorry?
It's not called a homer. You're chewing for a kid. You don't need to wait. It's just a bit making it smaller and so.
But for chewing, we are machmir. When you're chewing, then we have the low plug of the Pri Megodim. But there is one madrega which is less than chewing, and that is just swilling it around in your mouth and then spitting it out. And that's why he holds its mutter.
Do you have to clean your mouth?
Sorry?
Do you have to?
Probably a good idea. Yeah, probably would be a good idea. Now, what about the...
What about the chon?
Yeah.
And you eat only the potato.
So that, my friend, you're going to have to come back next week. Because that is Seif Gimel. No, that is, it's a whole, Tavshil. No, it's a whole, do you know where, I'll tell you where there's a very, very big topic in Halacha.
Sorry?
You go to some of these, I don't know if you ever eat in a shawarma place or something like that. They've got these big signs up there. The French fries here, they're all fleischig. Are they? Because the restaurant is a fleischig place.
No.
But they only fry chips in there.
Okay.
Then who said? And even if they use oil, you should know, even if they use the same oil, but they filter it out and it's just the oil in which you have, this is a big shaila. If you fry schnitzel in oil, and filter out the oil. In other words, so there's no crumbs, there's no mamoshes, it's just the same oil in which you fried schnitzel. You then fry French fries. Does it make you fleshik? Do you have to wait 6 hours? Lo kol kach pashut. And that we'll see next week. Yeah, that's a teaser. I'm going to make sure you come back. Okay, so that's Sif Gimel. That's Sif Gimel. Tav Shil Bosa. Very good Shaila. We'll come back to that. Let's keep going. The Haflah is next on our list, number 20. The Haflah says, the Shaila is there a shiur for being meaty or milky? Is there a shiur? No shiur, says the Haflah. Mi hochazin ba'oichel oitoyem v'loi chilku chazal barav oimuat. Yeah. There is no... Chazal will not mechalik between whether it's a lot or a little. That is that. Now, okay. You find meat in your teeth after 6 hours. We spoke about this last week. What are you meant to do? You should spit it out. What happens if you didn't? You swallowed it. What happens if you swallowed it? So the question is, what is, and the Shulchan Aruch paskins that you should, of course, you should get rid of it. So,
After you swallow it?
no, does swallowing it now mean you have to wait another 6 hours? You found some meat between your teeth. Got it there. Now you swallow it. Do you have to now wait another 6 hours? Let's have a look.
According to Rambam, it's not.
According to the Rambam, that could be. But we paskin lechatchila. We paskin lechatchila by both.
Oh.
Yeah, the Shulchan Aruch paskins both like the Rambam and like Rashi. So maybe lechatchila we should be machmer. Let's see. Not so poshut. Says 21. Sefer Kashrus. Nimtza bosa bein hashinayim ubol uhu. You swallowed it. Re'ei chidushi hafla'a al gilyon hashulchan aruch sham shetzorich lehamtin oid sheisha shleimos. Oh yeah, broch. Says the hafla. Says the hafla. You have to wait another 6 hours. V'ha'olam einam nizharim b'zeh. The Welt is Mekel. The Welt, ha'olam. The olam is Mekel. V'chein hoireini hagon Rav Moshe halbashtam shlita. Al pi hataz. Shelabosa shekazeh ein kvar mashma'ut. Rav Moshe halbashtam was prepared to be Mekel and says it's fine. Why? Because it's not bossa anymore. Mikol mokoim oisoi atzmo yesh lahoser. Of course you should get rid of it. But if you swallowed it by mistake, doesn't make you fleshik. Final point, because I really want to rush ahead a little bit, and that is, let's go over the page to 23. Brushing your teeth. Remember, when you need kinuach and hadocha, right? So, for example, by the way, this is halacha l'maisa. You really need to know this. Friday night. This is fish and meat. But you need kinuach and hadocha. So in between the fish and the meat course, you need to have a bit of challah and some l'chaim, of course. You have some kinuach and hadocha. So between milky and meaty, let's say, if you would need kinuach and hadocha, does brushing your teeth count for one or both?
What's kind of the hadocha, sorry?
Kinuach is to clean, to wipe away, and hadocha is to wash. Okay? So, here's a shaila, 23. She'ela, echad shemetzachtzech es shinov, bein achilas gevina lebasa. We're going to come to cheese in a minute, all the big shaila of the different types of cheese. But somebody who brushes his teeth between cheese and meat, does that help in the place of kinuach hadocha? And the answer is, im metzachtzech b'mivreshet u'b'mayim. If you use toothpaste and water, then you've got both things. You've got the brushing element, so you've wiped it away, and there's water, so it counts for both.
What about mouthwash?
Mouthwash would count for one, not for both. Okay, pashtus. And here now we need to learn the next seif, and here is where we come to a really interesting topic, seif base, and that is what about between cheese and meat? We've spoken about between meat and cheese. What about between cheese and meat? How long do you need to wait? What is the famous hard cheese? The famous hard cheese. You may have heard about hard cheese. What is hard cheese? I can tell you a story.
Parmesan.
Sorry?
Parmesan?
If you say so. This is what we'll see. We'll see. So what is the definition of hard cheese and where does it come from? But I'll tell you a story. My father told me he heard from his Rebbe, Rebbe Bloppian, Zatzal, who would make fun of the, people would saying that this, I don't know, the Dutch Gouda cheese or whatever, it's hard cheese. And he would say, harte Käse? Das ist nicht harte Käse. He says, he remembers, ich gedenk, in Polen, when he grew up in Kelm. His father was rebellion. He said, I remember, he said, harte Käse? Man nicht gekannt schneiden mit einem Messer? Man nur gekannt schneiden mit an axe? He said, you couldn't cut that cheese, hard cheese, you could not cut with a knife. You needed an axe to cut it. He says, I remember what hard cheese was. It was rock hard. You needed an axe to cut it. You couldn't cut it with a, rock hard. Anyway, that's one opinion. Let's start, a few minutes. Let's at least start this. Seif base. We're going to go through Seif base. Okay, it's the middle of the page. You can't get too lost. Middle of the page. Seif base. Ochal gvina. Zog de mechaber. Ochal gvina. Somebody ate cheese. Mutalech lacharav bosom miyad. You can have meat immediately after it. Ubil v'ad. Sheyayin yodov. Shelo yehishum dova me'agvina nidbak bohem. Remember the Gemara?
Yeah.
Toisus, it was at night, he couldn't see, remember? Yeah? So it says the Mahaber, but you need to check your hands, make sure your hands are clean, because cheese can get, can make your hand, so you need to check that your hands are clean before you eat the meat. Ve'imu balayla, but if it is at night, you can't check your hands clearly, tzarich l'rachtzom, then you have to wash your hands. V'tzarich l'kaneach piv, you also need to wash your mouth out. Ulahadichoy. V'hakinuach, what is the kinuach? Sheyilois pas v'kanech bepiv yofe. Kinuach is to eat some bread. And that will clean out your palate. V'chein b'chol davar sheyirtza chutz mikimcha v'tamri v'yarka. There are some things which don't work, they don't stick to you, they don't work, doesn't matter. Dates are no good. L'fishem nidvokim they get stuck and they don't clean it out. You want something that's going to actually clean it out. So not dates, but bread is good. Fine. Right. And then, so what do you need to do? You need to check your hands. And then for your mouth, you need to do two things in your mouth. You need to eat a little bit of bread to clean out your palate, make sure there's no cheese in thing, and have a bit of wine or bread or water, and then wash your mouth out. When is that? That is only if you're coming to have meat, proper meat after cheese. But if you're going to have you only want to have chicken, you don't need to wash your mouth out or eat something in your mouth. Mr. Page, nor do you need to wash your hands. Because it's only drabanon, so we don't need to worry. You can have a piece of cheese and immediately go and have some chicken afterwards. Hagar, says the Ramah, not so fast. There are some who are machmir even when you eat meat after cheese. Sorry. What are they machmir? V'chein noyagin. And this is the minute that what? Shekol shehagvina kosher. That harte Käse ein oichlin acharem afilu basa oif. K'moy begvina chabasa. Nothing you're stuck. It's exactly the same as cheese after meat is meat after cheese. And that's even after chicken. V'yesh mekilin. On the other hand, there are some who are lenient. Ve'in limchos. You don't need to stone them. Sorry, you don't need to be moicha. You don't need to stop kvish echad with protest. That's right. You don't need to make a hafgana. Rak sheyasu kinuach. So what do you need to do according to the mekilin? You should do kinuach v'hadocha netila. Miutayv lahachmir. Toiv lahachmir Lashem. Toiv lahachmir. Miu toiv lahachmir. But it's good to be machmir. Oh, it's so good to be machmir. Miu toiv lahachmir. It's good to be machmir. So we have two opinions. That's the Ramah. So what do we do? So the Shulchan Aruch is more mekel, right? Shulchan Aruch says Shulchan Aruch does not nothing hard cheese, soft cheese, no difference. He's more lenient with chicken. The Ramah brings machmirim. The Ramah brings machmirim. And he says, "V'chein noyagim," if it's hard. The minhag is to be machmir if it's hard. That's how the Ramah paskins, and that sets us up next week to have a look at what is hard cheese, what is soft cheese. Talking about a machal, I'll just leave you with a quick story that I also saw this week about the. It wasn't the Ger Rebbe, but it was maybe even a Ger Rosh Hashiva, and it goes back many years. It goes back, I think.